this is Allie with Allie Anderson Wellness. Today I'm going to be talking about how nutrition can impact our sleep. I'm going to focus on one area, but this area is incredibly important, and without this area being balanced, we cannot get a good night's sleep. And I think you'll understand why as I begin to describe it. Before I get into that, I do want to touch on two concepts that are important to understand. The first is blood sugars, and the second is cortisol. If you've ever worked with me at all, you know that we talk a lot about blood sugar management and a lot about our cortisol levels. They're incredibly important in keeping our body healthy and it's at its optimal wellness. Just to describe blood sugars very quickly, blood sugars are the sugars found in our blood, and when we eat, they go up, and after we eat, they go back down, and then they go back up, and they go back down. If done correctly and we eat appropriately, our blood sugars at the end of the day should look like rolling hills throughout the day. When we eat something that is high in sugar or really high in carbohydrates, our blood sugars shoot up and then they have to come crashing back down. So the blood sugars then end up looking like a mountain. If any of you have children, you've probably discussed or laughed at the fact that your child is on a sugar high or on a sugar crash. That is the mountain. That is, they ate some sugar and they went way high and they're really excited about something, and then they came crashing back down and now they're really irritable. That happens to adults too. And so we all need to watch our blood sugars so that we maintain rolling hills and we don't have a lot of really high peaks and low dives. The other area I want to cover is cortisol. Cortisol is our flight or fight hormone. It is our stress hormone. So it's the hormone that goes up when we are under any stress. We need cortisol every day to get us up and get us moving throughout the day. That's important, but we don't want too much cortisol. When we have an excessive amount of cortisol, then our body is in a high area of inflammation. So going back to the blood sugars, when our body has nice rolling hills, our cortisol levels are also maintained at an adequate level. When we have these really high peaks and then these really low valleys, our cortisol levels go up because they find us to be stressed out, right? It's stressful for the body to go zooming up with our blood sugars and then go to crashing down with our blood sugars. So our cortisol levels go up in order to maintain the stress that's going on inside the body. Okay, so how does this play? How does this impact our sleep? So have you ever woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and thought you had to pee and go pee, and then you climb back in bed and your mind is racing with like crazy thoughts that the next morning you wake up and you're like, that was a little extreme. But in the middle of the night, it seems very legit. That happens to so many of us. And the reason we didn't wake up because we needed to pee. We often think that's the reason we woke up, but I'll give you a little tip. Our body can actually hold on to the urine throughout the night. It doesn't actually wake us up, if you didn't drink like a gallon of water right before you went to sleep. But the reason you woke up is because your cortisol levels went up. When your cortisol levels go up, they wake you up. We realize we have to pee, so we get up to pee. We climb back in bed. And then we have this stress hormone inside of our body, and we're laying there still in bed, but the stress hormone is circulating in the body, and so it makes our mind race, and it makes our mind have these crazy thoughts that, again, the next morning seem sort of so ridiculous that you thought of in the middle of the night, but it kept you up from 2 to 4 a.m. or something like that. The reason your cortisol levels went up is because your blood sugars dropped. They plummeted. They got below the baseline where they're supposed to be. When they're below the baseline where they're supposed to be, our body is stressed out and is like, she's lost blood sugar, and so therefore I need to raise her cortisol levels. Raising cortisol levels will actually also raise blood sugar, and wake her up, because this is dangerous to get down below blood sugar levels. Are you following me? The reason you've dropped below your blood sugar levels is probably because you had a high sugar, high carbohydrate, high alcohol content snack before bed, sort of after dinner. So many of us eat our dinner and then we have this beautiful dessert after dinner, a bowl of ice cream, or maybe it's a glass or two of wine, or maybe we go to the pantry and snack on something like potato chips. When that happens, our blood sugars kind of go rising up pretty fast, and then around 2 o'clock in the morning, after they've dropped down, now they're down too low, and so now our cortisol levels are going up and they're waking us up. So what can we do to avoid this? We can make after dinner choices that help support our blood sugar levels so that they don't go rising straight up and then coming crashing back down. Instead, we just want them to sort of, again, look like rolling hills. So What does that look like? It looks like having a dinner that's full of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. That's great. Have a nice dinner like that. But after dinner, not consume something that's very high in sugar and or carbohydrates. So unfortunately, that means usually the alcoholic drink, which is really high in sugar, needs to be excluded, at least while we're getting our sleep back in check, and certainly the desserts and the high carbohydrate snacks. This is why we're training our body to get back into a sleep pattern that sleeps throughout the night. So one of the things I like to recommend to my clients is not only to remove the high sugar, high carbohydrate snack after dinner, but to bring in some good some good fats and proteins after dinner. And very small amounts. We don't need large amounts because we don't want the body to have to work in digestive mode while we're sleeping. But in a very small amount that allows the blood sugars to just very slowly climb and then very slowly fall. And very slowly climb and very slowly fall. Fat and protein slow down the rate at which our blood sugars rise. So, whereas carbohydrates and sugars speed up the rate. So what does that look like? It looks like a piece of turkey or a piece of ham, or if you're eating cheese, a piece of cheese, or a cheese stick if you're eating dairy. It could also look like a spoonful of nut butter. I like to make sure the nut butter doesn't have added sugars in it, so it'd be a very plain nut butter. A wonderful snack is a spoonful of something like pumpkin seed butter. Pumpkin seed is also full of zinc and magnesium, which helps us sleep. Or a spoonful of pistachio seed butter. Pistachio seeds actually have melatonin in them to help us sleep. It can also look like a small handful of pistachios, again, increasing our melatonin levels. It could look like a small handful of almonds or cashews or another nut of your choice. It could look like an avocado, eating a quarter or half of avocado. You could even add a little salt or pepper. Those are all really good fat and protein choices so that our blood sugars are very slowly climb and then very slowly fall. And then we don't see this sort of crashing down in the middle of the night. And again, when they crash down, the cortisol levels go up, the cortisol levels wake us up, and then our mind starts racing and it's hard to fall back to sleep. So I know I just threw a lot at you. I hope it made some sense, and I hope that you can try out this new tip. Tonight at dinner, just try out after dinner to have a small protein or fat snack and see if it improves your sleep. I do want to add one more thing when we're trying to improve our sleep and trying to see how diet plays a role in our sleep. One of the very best things we can do is to journal it. So if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, you don't have to journal right then, but the next day, journal what did you eat for dinner and what did you eat after dinner, and sort of the timing and how all that was going, so that you can see if that is impacting your sleep. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, Allie at Allie Anderson. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.